Okay. Okay, better late than never, right? So now we're recording. Yeah, so systems innovation is this global network of local and thematic of hubs, right, that bring systems innovation topics to locations like the Bristol hub and all these other ones here in the globe, as you can see. And in hubs, they are thematic as well. So we have, as I was mentioning before, in the healthcare hub, for example, we have cities hub, we have the food hub. So it's to bring this conversation to things as well, instead of just locations. So it's a global community to bring systems innovation, systems thinking, complexity science topics to everyone, because these are very important topics for us to know and get more access to this language, right? So this is where we are here. We are the newest location hub, actually, which is very exciting. So this is a bit about SI, and today it's an open discussion of systems innovation, what this is, and I would like to hear from you as well, your perspective about that. So before we start, just to let you know that now we are recording the session. The chat function is available. You can always put some things in the chat, but you can always raise your hand in the function here on the Zoom, and we are welcome to hear from you. But if you're not speaking, just because of the audio experience, I would ask you to be on mute, and I will do the same when you're speaking. Okay. So let's get started. And I wanted to go back to the Industrial Revolution era, because this is where several of the conversations that we have today started. So that's the time in history where a lot of the conversations about, for example, progress and efficiency and development in the world of work and beyond started to be a bit more in the everyday life of people. So the speed of production and processes of development during this time increased a lot compared to the previous ages in history, right? And of course, that brought a lot of great stuff for us. So democratization of consumption, for example, affordability of goods and services. We could have more of this, what we call now the comfort, right? Sewage and healthcare, in terms of you have bathrooms and toilets that are working and functional. So this is very good that happened from this Industrial Revolution era. But then, of course, we had some of the consequences of this mode of thinking, right? That we can see here, for example, homelessness, increase in social inequality, climate change, and all the different challenges that we have today. So societal, environmental, and political challenges started to develop in a very speedy pace, and this is what we call nowadays the wicked challenges, right? And I'm sure some of you have heard of this. So would you like to share with me what do you understand about wicked challenges, wicked problems, and yeah, if this is something that you experience nowadays, and how?
So I say a few things, Jasmine? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go on.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I understand wicked problems as things which are kind of multi-dimensional and interconnected, where there isn't kind of an obvious single solution to those challenges, or if there is a single solution presented, it's often kind of a very sort of surface level solution, which really doesn't address those kind of underlying causes of the problem. And so for me, that's why, you know, it's really good to sort of take more of a systems view and try and work with some of the tools which have been created to help us understand the sort of different dynamics which might be influencing or affecting those problems as we see them. Yeah, and I like the bit about the kind of the historical view on kind of where we've come from in terms of the kind of industrialization of society and what that means in terms of how our economies are kind of underpinned by certain principles or philosophies, you know, and same for politics as well. You know, kind of interesting to think about whether we're in a new kind of revolutionary time, you know, with new technologies kind of taking us into, you know, a kind of a different, or challenging those kind of underlying philosophies and principles around economics and politics, you know, driven by things like data and AI and technology in general. Kind of, I think we're probably in that new era of industrial revolution.
Love that, James. Thank you. Yeah, as you were saying that, right, it's not just when we talk about political challenges nowadays, we need to think about the environment. We need to think about technology, as you mentioned, AI and ethics, and how that's going to ripple into people's lifestyle and mental health and so forth. So it's not just fixing the light bulb, right? It's not just creating some type of a sewage system and then that's it. There are several different interrelationships here that it's not that evident, and it's not that easy to, first of all, it's not easy to spot, and second is, what about the solutions of it, right? How can we go about it? Is solution the best word to use? So yeah, massive discussion, right? Indeed, Carl, anything that you'd like to add on what James mentioned?
Well, no, not for me. I suppose, yeah, definitely. I mean, I know it's about problems rather than kind of solutions or innovation kind of discussion quite yet, but there's also quite often people's adoption of technology, thinking that is innovating, but still probably fundamentally playing at the edges and the symptoms of the problem, not necessarily addressing some of the fundamental challenges that underlie not just that particular wicked problem, but the things that it's connected to. And unfortunately, the system that we have, especially in the UK, you know, it's a very hyper-capitalist model and an approach to things and funding model, is that typically those that already have power, influence, and money are also the ones who then go and recreate or can go and play in that causal space. And unfortunately just generates more inequality. Actually, kind of elsewhere in the system, might resolve, in inverted commas, one particular area of the map, but cause and exacerbate issues in other places, but don't give it consideration because fundamentally that's not their responsibility. So yes, the lack of collaboration and lack of systems thinking within this, that just exacerbates problems fundamentally. But that's my 2 pence.
Seems more like £20 to me, to be honest. Very, very good. Thank you. Indy, I think you wanted to mention something as well.
I didn't hear everything James said because I had to nip out for a minute. But so forgive me if there's any repetition. But I think the other thing that came to mind around wicked problems is that, and also I think sort of that contrast with the industrial area is that we don't, when you think about wicked problems, it's not, we have to move away from a sort of industrial mindset of solutions it's like we can do things that will change the system, and some of those changes will be positive, but they may also have other effects that we don't anticipate. But it's sort of like moving from a solution to a journey of action, because we'll do things, it'll improve things, but it's not going to be solved. We'll still have to keep going. And I think that's, challenging sometimes, right? Like for all of us. Not so easy sometimes.
No, definitely not. Really, really like what you said, that journey of action, that this is, yeah, it's related to something that I have here, moving ahead. But
can I just say something to follow up as well quickly? Just thing is, just tell me if we're getting too sidetracked, Jasmine, because I know you've got kind of elements of this session you want to get through. But just a thought, which is kind of, I guess I'm feeling philosophical, but the kind of cultural and scientific movement which kind of created the Industrial Revolution, like kind of man's mastery over the world and the kind of scientific enlightenment and things like this, I think kind of drove a lot of those, kind of that societal kind of change. And, that is kind of the thing about this, the industrial age sort of beginning to crumble a little bit, and those sorts of models not working so much anymore, and these wicked challenges becoming more pressing in society. And so we need to kind of maybe move towards an alternative model of philosophy, and understand that we can't just be the masters of the universe anymore. We've kind of got to work with complexity. And I think that's kind of the interesting change and movement, which I think we're all kind of can all sense, and that's kind of why what's drawn us here, kind of interested in this space. I just wanted to just to say that, really.
Awesome, James. Yeah. Well, let me just move a bit quicker so we can dive a bit deeper into this topic that you're bringing up. So here, just a couple of characteristics of wicked challenges, right, that you've mentioned is multidimensional. It's not just politics, it's not just environment, it's not just housing, it's everything together. Yeah, it's open-ended. There's no one solution to the problem. There's, as Indeed said very well, it's more of a journey of inquiry, a journey of understanding what's going on, and then putting in perspective and then reflecting on it again. So it's not just one fixed solution, right? Yeah, there are multiple perspectives that come with it. It's a very important point, right? That some people think that climate change exists, some people think that climate change doesn't exist. And then how can we talk about it, right? How can we start a conversation if we start from the point that one thing exists and the other doesn't? So it seems like a very difficult way to navigate, right? Which it is, and it's interconnected and all that kind of stuff that you mentioned. And then, yeah, I think you're jumping more into this part of, is there a solution to this confusion, to this messy world that we live in? And yeah, I think this is a graphic that I wanted to share as well, that relates to your points. That this linear solution is what we, as James was saying, is what we have known in this in science, right? To just understand the causes and then put everything together, fix it, and that's it. So you can separate the parts, you can fix the parts, and then once you bring it back together, then the machine is gonna work again, right? So this is a very mechanical way of looking at the situation. But then, as we've mentioned, the wicked problems are a lot more complex, and what worked here to fix something doesn't work in this reality here, because as you were saying, once you know, that game that you need to try to punch all the different toys that come up, and then one is easy, all good, but then at some point there are 3 together and you can't manage all with the same hammer because it's very difficult. So I think in a very simple analogy, this is in some ways this bottom part of this graphic here, these wicked challenges, is just everything happening together, all these different problems happening together, and they're actually interconnected. So yeah, the linear solution presented, or the mechanical solution presented in science that we have in a lot of ways doesn't really work that well in this realm of a complex world. So yes, we have Chloe. Hello, Chloe. We're just talking about simple stuff, right? We're talking about light topics. And yeah, we're just contextualizing a bit of the wicked challenges or the complex societal, environmental, political challenges that we have nowadays. And we were discussing that this linear solution that we're used to, it's not very effective when we're dealing with this complex scenario here. And what Indy was saying before, right, is very, very important, because it's not get rid of the linear solution altogether and just think about something different, right? Let's just get rid of what happened before and then try to find something new now. It's really about the integration of a new method with what we had before, and identify what is useful for a linear solution and what is not, instead of just having this linear solution as everything that we have, right? As the only hammer that we have to win the game of toys. So yeah, any other comments about this graphic or this idea? I think you're going in a very good direction there. No? Good.
Just to say, yeah, it's I guess similar to the iceberg model, right? I mean, kind of I guess it is the iceberg model, but yeah, just recognizing that you know, often the kind of narrative behind what a problem is simplified and doesn't take into account kind of the complexity under the surface of what's actually driving the problem. And that can, you know, kind of cause issues in the world, I suppose. You know, we've all seen that play out, I'm sure, when it's a particular problem we've got to deal with, and you might get told by people who have the power, actually the solution is X, and we sort of think maybe it's not, or maybe we should consult other people who aren't necessarily in power, the kind of position to hold the resources to try and make a change. So I think there's a kind of integration and play of like power in this model as well, about who has influence or control over the resources to make a difference and make those choices about what a solution could be. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we're getting to the who has the saying in what is happening, right? And who has the, I'd say, quote unquote, power to change the top part of this iceberg, right? Which we're going to talk in the next session, and who has more of a say on the structures of the system and can change, for example, legislations, or can change some of the rules of the game, right? So this is a very important topic. And yeah, so another point is that, can you see this dynamic playing in, for example, in the work that you do? Or, for example, when you see that a problem or a situation is not that easy, and then there are other people that come and say, no, we just need to do this little bit and everything's going to be fine. Can you think about any examples in your work, or a project that you worked with, or news that you read recently that has this dynamic of everything is simple, let's just fix this thing and we can just get on with our lives?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go on, Chloe. Yes.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Nigerian. I live and work in Nigeria, and currently there's a ton of issues. But I think most relevant now, and it's not necessarily related to my work, but at the moment there is a lot of economic uncertainty. And I belong to a group of people who are just thinking about, not really professionally, but just having conversations around what could, what are the things that we could apply to make the situation, one, more like break it down in a way that we actually understand where the problems are coming from, and then, move towards, I guess, a clear solutions for what we can do better. In terms of who has the power, a lot of us don't even work in government. We're not even government adjacent, So when it comes to like even implementing these things, personally, I have a bit of a block there because, it's one thing to have a conversation, it's one thing to think about it. It's one thing to draw, a whole map of what are the factors affecting, our economic situation, but it's a whole other thing to actually have a conversation with people who can make the changes that would affect everybody else, on a national scale. So that I think what I have is really a question, how are you guys thinking about it? And then another question I have is, this is something that is still pretty new within my community, the systems thinking, system innovation, ways of solving problems. So, and I really want to be able to, in a, I guess, informed way, bring some of these practices to the people that are within my community, and also to work. So I work as a product designer too. And, I want to also be able to move away, well, not necessarily move away, but incorporate systems thinking, move from, okay, design thinking about just products and end users to, looking at the entire ecosystem and how the products I'm building affect other, the other factors that are involved in it. So I don't know, I feel like this is a 4-part question that I've asked. I hope it makes sense. But yeah, that's really
Awesome, Chloe. Thank you. Yeah. Well, the linear solutions, right, is difficult to get away from, because this is a perspective that coming from a place of things that work. So for example, if you have I don't know, the classical example, right, of the car, that you have, I don't know, the oil is low in your car and the car breaks down, and oh my God, what should we do now? And then there's a solution for it. Maybe you don't know, but someone else knows, and the person that you need to talk with that is going to fix that. And it's great when that works, right? And then because it's so current in our world of things that break down and then can be fixed like that, we use the same mindset to other areas of our lives that are not that simple. So escaping from this linear perspective is very difficult. Well, not escaping, right? But as you're saying, incorporating other ways of thinking is very difficult, and it's very contextual as well. So which makes it even more difficult, and then other perspectives of people that are working with you and so forth. So that's just one comment that I wanted to make. But of course, it's not impossible, right? There are always ways that we can hear best practices and hear what other people are doing, and use the principles to be applied in other contexts, but not, of course, copy and paste, because that's probably not going to work. So I would like to hear from Carl as well, who raised his hand.
Sorry. Yeah, there's so many examples. I was thinking about kind of headline yesterday, for example, in the UK about kind of burning waste and incinerators as forms of energy. Actually, is, you know, the principle behind it was to move away from coal plants, etc., and something which is more environmentally friendly, and also potentially resolve some of the waste crises as well. But actually, it's just caused, it's just equally as dirty and causes other problems as well. So this linear thinking and solutionizing actually doesn't necessarily solve the fundamental problem, which then I was thinking about, sometimes it's the way that we frame those problems in the first place that is the issue. So take, you know, the use of EVs, like electric vehicles. It's like, yeah, okay, so we've reduced the amount of fumes potentially within urban places, but haven't fundamentally resolved the issue of how do we make travel equitable, fair, and accessible for all. Because we framed it in the wrong way. What the opportunity was missed when we were thinking about how do we rethink our relationship with cars. So sometimes the way that we frame those problems and trying to kind of retrospectively kind of reevaluate, I think speaks a little bit to Indy's discussion earlier. Sometimes it is an evolution thing. It is about constantly evolving and learning, and yeah, kind of shifting the focus, and that is part of systems change as well. So the last 13, 14 months I've been on a contract with the Alzheimer's Society, and looking at dementia as obviously a problem area, or dementia care, and supporting people and both living with dementia and their families. But usually that problem frame is within an even bigger problem of the healthcare system full stop, and then kind of the finances, and then the political kind of powers behind it, and the policies that are made during general elections. You know, is that these are problems within problems within problems, which then is what tends us towards that linear solution, because they're controllable transactions. Is that A, I can define that problem, B, I have a solution to that particular part of the problem space. So yeah, so I think there's so many examples I think we could give, but those are things that came to mind.
Very good. Thank you.
If I can
Yeah,
say something,
go on.
Yasmin.
Go on.
And I was just thinking about what Chloe was saying as well about you know, trying to learn more about systems innovation, systems thinking, and like how we can apply some of these practices and tools to kind of influence decision makers. And I think it's always playing on my mind, like when you're in a position of power, to kind of use some of your resources to go and like look at other things can be not a thing you want to do, because it kind of like takes away from your resources, like fixing the thing and showing, oh, that we fixed it, and forget about the rest of it. We can control the narrative around that we fixed it, you know. So it takes resources away from that. But I think our goal with systems innovation, systems thinking, is to like spread awareness that these are important tools to kind of contextualize how you're looking at problem solving, and making sure you're doing something in a kind of I think in a way which is more in line with equality and environmental issues and things like that. So I think it's about kind of spreading awareness and kind of helping people to be more aware that there are these approaches which differ from maybe their kind of default position. I just wanted to say that.
Awesome. Yeah, the power of the collective intelligence and the community, and bringing different perspectives together and see what emerges and all that. And all that topic, right, is extremely important, and we normally disregard that for sure. Thank you. Chloe.
Yes, so I just wanted to while James was talking, and James, thank you for that. I just wanted to, I guess, clarify the question. So there is also the issue or you know,
So is it me or is it
where
breaking?
people
a bit?
have different for the solution.
Can you hear that as well?
Yeah, I think it
It was
is.
breaking
It
up a
just
little bit.
showed a safe connection notification. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's breaking a bit, but now it seems like it's fine.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah,
Okay,
we
great.
kind of
So what I was
can
saying is,
start. Yeah.
what I was trying to say was, there's kind of, different voices. There's so many ideas and solutions, and people are coming with different perspectives, right? And I'm in the mix, with my own perspective, thinking how can we almost, I guess, streamline or you know bring these um different ideas was something. I remember having a conversation where I was like, I've been talking about some of these issues over and over again. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, maybe
Oh,
if you
man.
can just turn off your camera, maybe it works
Okay.
better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So what I was saying is, I'm at a place where I'm almost experiencing some level of fatigue around having these conversations, because I'm just like, we talk about this over and over again, but we're not moving towards an actual solution. We're not moving towards implementation. We're not moving towards, okay, what's next? What's the better strategy in here? So that's really where I feel almost stuck. Like, how do I implement this kind of thinking, systems innovation into, I guess, guiding, a large conversation, such as, a conversation around how do we solve, economic instability in Nigeria? What methods can we use? What are the factors affecting, our current economic situation? Yeah, just it would just be nice. I have the information, like I know about systems thinking, I'm learning a lot, but I want to be able to implement. Like, I want to be able to actually do something with it.
Yeah. Big question. I don't know if maybe James or Carl would like to share some of the ideas that you were having about the project afterwards, but generally, yeah, I think being involved in groups that have the same mindset, and then through time, right? It's not just joining once or a couple of times and then leaving, because I think this when you put a challenge in a group like that, then people with a similar type of view of what you're talking about would support or give other perspectives to support the challenge that you have, right? And I think we've experienced that a lot, at least in the Bristol Hub, where we talked about something, and because people are on the same journey, on the same process of learning and developing and thinking about situations in a different way, then it always helps to have that support, and then that would ripple into other areas of our lives as well. So
Just, yeah, if I can say something couple of things quickly to Chloe. So yeah, I mean, definitely, you don't always have to start with the top kind of decision makers, right? So look, trying to influence government and what they're doing. Often, community level projects will kind of leap over that and find their own solutions. So doing a lot of community level stuff can be really interesting. I know there's quite a lot which happens in Bristol, which we know about, but there's kind of good examples around the world. It reminded for some reason of I think there was a challenge in South America, maybe Yasmin will know about it, where they had an issue with like fresh drinking water in a particular city. And there was the community, and so the local government or the government were trying to work out how do we build all these drains, how do we kind of build wells and you know build a whole new kind of infrastructure for fresh water. And the community kind of response was, well, let's collect rainwater and sanitize that and use that instead. So you can kind of see these like, it doesn't even need to be like a technological solution like you know EVs or something which kind of draws us and leaps us over from. I know in Africa I think there was a big change from the telephone system where there wasn't telephones but people just went straight to mobile phones, so there's kind of a leap across a technology kind of barrier. So but sometimes it doesn't even need to be like a technology response, it can be just a community like creative response, and then that can be really influential to some of the decision makers to show them and showcase that this community level response is really working, helping you solve a problem which you've got, which you were trying to throw lots of money at, but actually we can do this at more of a local level. So hopefully that might help a little bit, and certainly through the Systems Innovation Network, Chloe, that I'm sure there'll be people we can connect you with in kind of similar regions if you wanted to sort of have some peer-to-peer support.
Sure. Well, Indy, would you like to share any thoughts that you're having with this conversation, or any examples that you might have on these different mindsets?
No, moving to action is tough. Because to take a systems view basically in the end means we have to involve more people who have the different perspectives, and we have to get them all together and facilitate and moderate and deal with the conversation that bringing them all together creates. And a lot of times that's, you know, especially in the beginning, it can be a stormy conversation because people come with different priorities and different views. What I guess what I most want to say is sometimes it can feel like you're not making any progress because you're like, I brought all these people together and all they're doing is arguing. But it's actually a necessary step. It's like we have to come together and get to know each other and deal with some of the emotions that involves and persist, because the progress comes once some more network connections have been made and more understanding is built. Don't know if that helps, Chloe, but that's me.
It does. Thank you.
So yeah, so that's that's why we're all go on.
I was going to say, I was just going to basically kind of build on Indy's very important point of going, this is something which I think everybody wrestles with in this space, is like how to turn this potential echo chamber of as understanding kind of systems thinking or systems lenses, and then turning that theory into something that is practical. Something which so certainly kind of how you involve different stakeholders and different motivations and different starting points and different understandings. Is sometimes just hold that tension lightly, is try not to kind of let it dominate and steer the agenda. Sometimes acknowledge it and realize that relationships will change over time. And time is important as well, Chloe. And this is the bit which I definitely kind of had a light bulb moment around systems thinking and complexity stuff, is that coming from a product background is you've got these timescales of 6 months of prototype, then you kind of go out into your MVP, you've got 12, 18 months to launch, and kind of you've got your iterations, you've got these kind of timescales of talking in maybe 5 years, and that seems like a long time. But realistically, when we're talking about systems change, we've got to take a multi-generational view. We've got to think over the next 100 years, like what is the journey that we're going on, and what is my role within that? And it is just kind of, it feels, yeah, like you kind of, excuse the expression, but kind of, I was going to say, it's going to swear, then I won't, but maybe kind of, shouting into the abyss a little bit, is that you're not making the progress that you want. But two things which have always helped me is kind of, when you're building your theory of change, is do it systemically, is thinking about what are the aligned pieces in this that we need to be aware of and capture kind of impacts within that space. But also from a showing that it works, or showing that the thinking has real world applicability and value, is definitely thinking about how you're going to evaluate your projects so that you can capture real world information and data that says, by doing this, we've solved this. However, we've also alleviated issues within that particular part of a different system, perhaps, or maybe caused unintended harm in others. So thinking how you're evaluating the actual projects that you're involved in at a systems level, which again isn't an easy thing to do, but you're showing kind of what it looks like in the real world, and then kind of the evolutionary aspect of systems change over time. Yeah, and I'm happy to kind of share some of the discussions that I've been having around some of that stuff, about how to incubate some of that thinking, and then kind of tie in with some of the systems evaluation stuff. Yeah, anytime you want to talk, I'm around usually.
Thank you. I could text you on the Systems Innovation Network, yes? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, James and Chloe, everyone, for, yeah, it's been very good discussion. And yeah, that's why we want to start having spaces like this, so we can put our frustrations here and trying to see in other ways how we can feel a bit at ease with the process that we're going through. Because yes, as you've all said, it's a process. It's not something that is going to be fixed tomorrow. And sitting with this uncertainty, I think it's important as well. But finding ways to deal with what we can at the present moment, right? So yeah, this is just the start of massive conversation that we will have in the next 5 sessions. But just to go through the end of the slides, and then I'll share with you the next steps as well. So this is another way that we can see systems innovation, right? The innovation in general, the value adding process of creating and applying ideas. And you can do that in parts of creating specific products or services and bringing to the market, and then just looking at this loop in a very granular, in a very simple way. But you can do that looking at the system rather than looking at the product that you're creating. And then through that, coordinating different parts of the system, as you're talking about coordinating different stakeholders that are going to be involved in the challenge as a whole, not just a very specific product or service that you're concerned about, right? So it's really the ideas, as you're bringing, right, the ideas of systems thinking and all that, but also the application, which is a very difficult part to do. And that's why bringing these conversations and bringing challenges and trying to apply that in challenges that we are having is very important. So yeah, that's a bit about systems innovation, right? Not thinking about just the parts, but thinking about the system as a whole and how it's interrelated with different areas, different themes, different knowledge groups and so forth. So here, the example of the electric vehicles, right? Thinking that it's a great idea for the environment, and it's a great idea for the city transport system, but at the end of the day, it's another car, right? And it's another part innovation, as we can say, because it's just changing how the car is made without taking into consideration all the other consequences that are going to come with this new product. So the systems innovation really is thinking about, in this example, of redesign the city so people can walk, for example, instead of having to need the car in the first place. So this is a different way of thinking about what we're discussing, right? It's not just what type of car, it's really about, can we change the structure of the city in a way that people can walk without having to need the car? So different ways of looking at it. And I think that was it. Yeah, I had some questions here, but I think our conversation went in a way better direction. We can leave these other questions for other sessions, but yeah, just for example, the challenges of the bringing the systems innovation ideas to implement essentially, right, which we talked a bit about before, and how you can see this this dynamic kind of playing out in your context and so forth. But yeah, these are the final slides. And just to let you know that what's coming next for the Bristol Hub is tomorrow we have a Bristol Hub social in Bristol, unfortunately. But yeah, this one is in person. But we have all the other open discussions that are going to happen every 2 weeks, the same time. So next one is October the 30th, what is systems thinking? And then we have the other 3, systems mapping, transition design, and ecosystem building. So I have here the QR code for the Bristol Hub where all this information is, and you can RSVP for our next sessions. I can share the link in here in the chat as well, because it can be easier. And that's it. I think. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Last
question in the chat.
Yeah, last questions, last comments. I didn't know this slide existed before my earlier. We're ahead of the game, Carl. That's it.
Great minds think alike and all that, yeah.
That's it. What would be an accurate word or phrase to describe the opposite of systems innovation? Oh, wow.
Yeah, because
Yes.
when I have conversations with people, I'm like, okay, I want, like, this is how I'm thinking about it versus, so what word do I use to, you know?
Ah,
We don't have a word yet. I mean, I've seen, like in my reading, I've seen things like thoughtless innovation, but I don't know if that word is like apt for what I'm trying to describe.
yeah, maybe, you know, what we're talking about, the parts innovation, or let's say linear innovation, which is just very disjunct, is that word? Separated from everything else, right? Just look at the parts and that's it. And systems innovation is really incorporating the whole that challenge is involved in. So maybe that can be one, but James, Carl, any other better words?
It's just I can't get beyond like being reductive, like that being part of the phrase. Is that it almost seems like, yeah, you're closing in and just distilling it into 2 very simple points, and that's it. And then that interaction transaction is like, how do you close reductive? We're talking systems innovation being more innovative and interconnected. So yeah, I was trying to. I don't have a word for it. I'll think about it. You've given me some pause for thought. Maybe it's a question to pose in the hub, Chloe, and see what people kind of respond to it.
Great.
Yeah,
but I think that's a good, like, the reductionist view versus, you know, systems view, and then there's also the open versus closed. I think that's also a good way to think about it too. But I'll definitely ask.
All right, everyone. That's the end of our session. Thank you very much for coming. It was great to see you all. It was an amazing discussion. And we see each other on the 30th for more systems thinking conversations. Yes?
Thanks,
Nice
Yasmin.
nice to meet you all. See you soon.
Nice to meet
Great.
you.
See you.
Bye.
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 Bye.